Most men have been taught that a good conversation is built on questions. Ask her about her day. Ask her where she's from. Ask her what she does for work. Ask her what she's passionate about. Keep the questions coming. Keep her talking. Keep the energy alive. It sounds logical. It sounds respectful. It sounds like the right thing to do. But here's what no one tells you. The moment you turn a conversation into an interview, you've already lost. Before we dive into this, do me a quick favor. Subscribe, hit like, and let me know what city you're watching from. Not because questions are wrong, but because back-to-back questions signal something she can feel, even if she can't name it. They signal that you are working for the conversation, that you are afraid of what happens if it stops, that your job, right now, is to make sure she stays engaged, and that fear of losing her attention is running the whole show. Women don't experience that as effort, they experience it as pressure. And pressure, even when it's well-intentioned, does not create attraction. It creates tolerance. She'll answer your questions. She'll be polite. She'll smile and respond and keep the exchange going, because that's what people do in social situations. But underneath that, something quiet is happening. She's registering that you need this more than she does. That the conversation would collapse if she stopped carrying half of it. That you are chasing something, her validation, her interest, her approval, and that chase is visible in every question you fire. The man who asks the fewest questions and says the most interesting things is always more magnetic than the man who runs through a checklist trying to seem engaged. One is performing curiosity. The other is expressing a point of view. And there is a world of difference between the two. Here is what actually works. Instead of asking her where she grew up, you make an observation. Instead of asking what she does for fun, you tell her what her energy reminds you of. Instead of asking how her week was, you notice something specific about how she carries herself in the moment, and you name it. This is not about being clever. It is not about having the perfect line ready. It is about shifting from a posture of extraction, where you are pulling information from her to keep things going, to a posture of expression, where you are giving her something to react to. When you express, rather than extract, the dynamic flips. Now she is the one responding to you. Now she is the one thinking about what you said. Now she is the one leaning in slightly, because you said something unexpected, and she wants to know what comes next. That is where attraction begins, not in the question, but in the statement that didn't need her agreement to exist. There is a reason some men can sit in near silence and still have a woman's complete attention. It is not their looks. It is not their status, though those things help. It is that they have stopped needing the conversation to go a certain way. They are not monitoring her reactions every 5 seconds to decide whether they're doing well. They are not adjusting their energy based on whether she laughs or doesn't laugh. They are simply present, and that presence, that complete lack of desperation, is the most attractive energy a man can bring into a room. You have felt this before, even if you couldn't explain it. You have met someone and walked away thinking there is something about him without being able to identify what it was. What it was, almost certainly, was that he wasn't trying to get anything from you. He was just there, solid, unhurried, like he had already decided the interaction was fine regardless of how it ended. That is what you need to become in conversation, not distant, not cold. Not the man who stares into the middle distance pretending he doesn't care, but the man who cares without clutching, who is engaged without being anxious. Who wants the conversation to go well but is not shattered if it doesn't? The practical way to do this is to stop measuring her responses as feedback on your performance. When she laughs, it does not mean you are winning. When she gives a short answer, it does not mean you are losing. When there is a pause, it does not mean something is broken. These are just moments in a conversation, and most men assign far too much meaning to each one. Every slight shift in her energy sends them scrambling to correct something. They speed up when they should slow down. They fill silence when they should let it sit. They add another question when they should let their last statement breathe. The result is a conversation that feels chaotic and needy, even when it's technically covering interesting topics. What she wants to feel, whether she is conscious of it or not, is that you are not rattled, that you are moving through the conversation at your own pace, that her mood does not dictate your mood. That is emotional leadership, and it is conveyed not through what you say, but through the rhythm of how you say it. Statements are more powerful than questions for one simple reason. They reveal you. A question tells her nothing about who you are. It only tells her that you want to know something about her. But a statement, an actual point of view, an observation, a conviction, a bit of dry humor, a bold take on something that gives her something to grab onto, it shows her the shape of your mind. And women are drawn to the shape of a man's mind long before they are drawn to his face or his resume. When you say, "You seem like someone who has strong opinions, but picks very carefully who gets to hear them," you have done something. A question never could. You have made her think. You have made her wonder whether you're right. You have given her an image of herself that she either wants to confirm or correct, and either way, she is now engaged in a way that "where are you from?" could never produce. The statement creates motion. It creates something between you. It creates a moment she will actually remember. This is also how you handle the early seconds of a conversation, which is where most men crash before they even realize it. The instinct is to open with a question. What brings you here? Do you come here often? What are you drinking? These are not terrible questions in isolation, but they place all the energy and responsibility on her from the first word. You have immediately put her in the position of having to give you something. A stronger move is to open with an observation that does not require an answer, but naturally invites one. You walk up and you say, "You've been watching that door for 20 minutes. Either you're waiting for someone disappointing or someone exciting, and I genuinely can't tell which one you're hoping for." Now she is laughing, or she is intrigued, or she is correcting you, and in any of those cases, the conversation has real energy from the very first exchange. You did not ask. You observed. And that is the difference between a man who enters a conversation and a man who creates one. There is something else that questions do which men rarely consider. They hand over the emotional frame of the interaction. When you ask, you are essentially saying, "You lead, I'll follow. You give me the direction, and I will respond accordingly." That is a follower's posture. And following is fine in many contexts, but not in this one, not in the first stages of attraction, not when the dynamic between you is still being established. The frame of an interaction is set in the first few minutes, and once it is set, it is very difficult to reverse. If she feels from the opening exchange that you are the one chasing, the one performing, the one who needs this to go well more than she does, that feeling will follow every message, every date, every moment between you. The dynamic calcifies quickly. But if she feels from the beginning that you are a man with his own point of view, his own rhythm, his own pace, a man who is not adjusting himself in real time to match her preferences, she will feel something that questions alone can never produce. She will feel like she is talking to someone, not performing for someone. This does not mean you never ask anything. That would make you a narcissist, and conversations would be unbearable. It means you are deliberate. When you do ask, it is not to fill silence or keep the energy alive. It is because you are genuinely curious, and the moment is right. When you ask from a place of real interest rather than social anxiety, the question lands differently. It feels like attention, not desperation. There is a version of asking that is warm and magnetic, and there is a version that is frantic and approval-seeking, and the words are often identical. The difference is entirely in the energy behind them. Slow down. Ask less. And when you do ask something that shows you are actually listening rather than just scanning for the next gap to fill. The biggest shift you can make is learning to sit with uncertainty. Most men cannot do this. When the conversation slows, they panic. When she takes a moment to respond, they add something. When there is quiet, they crack a joke or pivot to a new topic or ask another question to prove that things are still okay. All of that movement is fear wearing the costume of effort. The man who can hold a moment of silence, who can let something he said hang in the air without rushing to explain it, or follow it up or apologize for it, that man communicates something extraordinarily attractive. He communicates that he does not need her reaction to feel okay about himself. And a man who does not need your validation is a man you start to want to give it to. This is the paradox that most men spend years missing. The less you chase, the more she moves toward you. Not because you are playing a game, but because your stillness is evidence of something real. It is evidence that you have a center, that your worth is not contingent on whether this conversation goes well or whether she texts back or whether she seems impressed. That kind of groundedness is rare. And rare things are always more compelling than common ones. Practice this deliberately. The next time you are in a conversation and you feel the urge to ask another question just to keep things moving, pause. Make a statement instead. Offer a perspective. Say something about what you are noticing in the moment, and then let it land without chasing the response. If she engages, great. If she takes a moment, let her. If there is a beat of silence, breathe through it instead of filling it. You will feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that you are doing something different, something that most men never do, and different is exactly what she has been waiting for without knowing she was waiting for it. At the end of all of this, what you are really working on is not your conversation technique. You are working on your relationship with your own value. Men who over-question, over-explain, and over-perform in conversation are doing so because on some level they do not fully believe they are enough to just show up and be interesting. They believe they need to earn the right to be there through constant entertainment and engagement. They believe a pause is rejection, and a short answer is failure, and silence is the conversation dying. None of that is true, but it feels true, and so they keep moving, keep talking, keep asking, and in doing so, they confirm the very insecurity they are trying to hide. The work is to stop earning and start occupying, to decide before you walk into any conversation that you belong there, that you are interesting enough, that your presence alone is something worth being around. Not arrogantly, not with performance, but with the quiet certainty of a man who does not need the room to tell him who he is. When you carry that, everything changes. Your tone, your pacing, the weight of your words. She will feel it before you say a single thing. And when you do speak, you will not be asking for her attention. You will simply have it. If any of this felt familiar, if you've been the man who asks too much, texts too fast, explains himself when no one asked, drop the word solid in the comments. You already know who you are. Subscribe if you're done being the most available person in every room. And send this to the one guy in your life who's out here working overtime in conversations that were never going to work anyway. Because the truth is simple. She was never waiting for a better line. She was waiting for a man who didn't need one.